Shalom. First and foremost, as always, on all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. I want to give double honors to my apostles at Great Millstone, who taught me this truth and teach the correct doctrine of the scriptures, and the sincere Shalom to elect out there teaching his truth, in all honesty and sincerity. Alright, I was watching this clip here from Measures All the Time Diligently. He got it from the brother GMS KC Prophets 144. Alright, and it's titled 9 p.m. and still daylight. Signs from heaven and the end is here. Okay, there are signs from the heavens, man. You know, it being 9 p.m. and still daylight, and it's not even officially summer yet. That's unusual. Okay, it's signs from heavens, man. From the heavens, man. You know, and when you look at throughout 2018, and throughout 2019, there's been a number of things going on in the sky. Alright, like blood moons. Would they have this super wolf moon? Or the super moon? I believe there's a very rare eclipse-like event that's going to happen later this year. In July, I believe it is. But one thing that I've noticed this year in 2019 is abnormal weather. You know, there's a lot of abnormal weather going on. Weird weather behavior. Just pull this up. Oops, sorry. Now keep in mind, it's June 10th. Alright, June 10th. It should be hot outside. Hot. Alright? Not average, but hot. Okay? Now, look at a weather forecast for Niagara Falls, New York. Alright? You look at what's going on now, and this has been like this, man. You know, I think we've only had one day where it's been 80 degrees or more. Here in Western New York, all right? One day so far. As you can see, we're still getting a lot of days in the 60s and low 70 degree range. Okay, in May you had most of the month of May, the temperatures were hovering around 40 to 50 degrees. Okay, in April it was pretty much snow on the ground and freezing cold almost the whole month. Okay, now up here, I know winter and spring are different for every area, but up here usually it gets warmer about late March. Starts to break into the 60s and 70s about mid to late April. Sometimes April gets pretty cold. All right, and we get some snowfall. But I mean, this has been the longest winter. Okay, it's been a long winter. And it hasn't been just up here in the Northeast, man. It's been all over the country. It's been a very wacky winter. And us being in the truth, we have to look at something like that. And because, you know, we are prophets and, you know, we do see things before they happen. Okay? And it's looking like 2019 is going to be a very serious year later on in the year. Because, you know, you have rising food prices with all these tariffs going back and forth between the U.S. and other nations. But with this long winter, it's going to be harder for farmers to get the same yields of crops that they normally get, which could lead to what? Food shortages. Okay? If you brothers remember if you watched the last video that I did, made a statement that famines come in waves. They don't just appear overnight most of the time. Okay, they happen in stages. Okay, we could be seeing the first stage of a very serious famine. Okay, of a very serious famine. I got this article from Progressive Farmer. It's called it's titled USDA Weekly Crop Progress. U.S. farmers fell further behind, and it's dated the 13th of May. U.S. farmers fell further behind in the race to plant corn, soybeans, and spring wheat last week, according to USDA NAS Weekly Crop Progress Report on Monday. As of Sunday, an estimated 30% of the nation's corn was planted. 30%. Alright? 30%, man, it's not a lot of corn. Okay? Now, is this article going to say that there's going to be a downright famine in the United States? No, it doesn't. But, I mean, food shortages, man, they're no joke. Alright? They're no joke. Expect food shortages this summer and fall and winter. You know, expect food shortages, man. And what those food shortages are going to do is jack up the prices. So not only is there going to be very little food on the shelves, but the prices are going to be much higher. Okay? So only those with money are really going to eat. If you look at things from a physical level, we know that the Most High determines who eats and who doesn't. Alright? Up only 7 percentage points from the previous week, well behind 59% at the same time last year, and 36 percentage points behind the 5-year average of 66%. Man, that was further behind normal than the previous week when corn planting was 23 percentage points behind the average pace. Okay, so farmers don't have their crops ready. Okay, they don't have their crops planted. It's that simple. Alright? It's also lowest percentage of corn planted by May 12th since 28% in 2013 and 27% in 1993. Okay? Noted DTN lead analyst Todd Holtman. Well, people will look at that and they'll say, well, see, it's not the lowest ever, so how are you going to say people are going to starve and blah, 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 blah. Well, first off, man, you got to look at the times that we're living. Things are a lot different now than they were just 6 years ago in 2013. Okay? And you didn't have tariffs in 2013. Alright? You didn't have a rapidly waning U.S. dollar in 2013. Okay? You didn't have rampant inflation in 2013. Neither did you in 1993. Alright? And the U.S. And people are in a lot worse place now, financially, than they were during those years. Okay? So they're not going to be able to afford to buy the already short supply of food. Your average American. Corn emergence was also slow, with an estimated 10% of the crop emerged as of Sunday, behind 25% last year, and 19 percentage points behind the 5-year average of 29%. Alright, soybean, which we're not concerned. We're not concerned with soybeans because we should really be staying away from soybeans, okay? But, you know, the point is that everything is falling, and then it goes into wheat. Okay, wheat also fell. Sorghum. Alright, winter wheat. Cotton. Okay, so things aren't, oh wait, they have a chart right here. Okay. Wow. When you go through this, let's go through this, okay? Look at this week compared to last year. Okay, trying to find, now most of these numbers on this last year side are significantly higher than this week, okay? This is detailing the progress. Alright, so farmers, if you go by this chart, or this summary, farmers are a lot farther behind this year than they were last year in terms of getting their crops planted. Okay? We know what the scriptures say about what is going to happen in the last days. 2 Ezra 15:5. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. Okay? And these plagues, they all share synergies with each other. Okay? If people can't eat, it's going to lead to what? Robberies, people killing each other. Alright, death. Okay? There's going to be a lot of diseases that happen because when people go hungry, you know, they get malnutrition diseases and things like that. Their immune systems aren't as strong. Their immune systems become weak when they're not getting proper nutrients, and that leads to diseases and so on and so forth, man. Okay? And what else does famine lead to? It leads to the sword. It leads to the sword because people will go be killing each other, man. You're going to see sharp rises of crime. Alright? It may even get bad enough to where the government may have to implement martial law because of these food shortages. Alright? But this is the Most High bringing plagues upon the world because we're in that time. Just like this brother was trying to prove in this lesson here, man. You know, we're in that time when these things are going to start just happening. Okay? They're just going to start happening, man. They're just going to start happening, man. But you know what? We're going to be shielded. The elect is going to be shielded, man, from these things. Job 5:17. Behold, happy is the man whom the Most High correcteth. Therefore despise not thou the chastity of the Almighty. Because a lot of this correction that we're going through now, okay, is to help us for the time coming. Prepare ourselves. Okay? The Most High is correcting us now so that we fully depend on Him. Because He wants us to depend on Him. He wants us to trust in Him. Because we're going to have to trust in Him to get delivered from the times that are coming. For He maketh sore, and bindeth up. He woundeth, and His hands make whole. He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles. Yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. Now, that doesn't mean that you should be walking around acting proud because you're in the truth, man. Alright, if anything, you should be more humble because the Most High could take it away just like that. He could take His protection and His covering away from you just like that. Alright? But if you're of the elect, at the end of the day, man, all this trouble that's going to come, it's not going to touch you. Okay? Are we going to be impacted by it because it's going to be surrounding us? Yes, we are. Okay? But it's not going to touch us. We're not going to succumb to these troubles and these tribulations. Job 5:20, in famine He shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. Okay? So when everybody's starving around here, alright, people are struggling to feed their children and so on and so forth, alright, we're going to be fine, man. The Most High is going to protect us in that time. Alright, He's going to redeem us from death. The word redeem means to buy back. He's going to buy us back from from death, man. He's gonna keep us from it. You know? I mean, think about it, man. You know, we brothers have been told and exhorted this whole time to fast. Okay? And fasting is important, man. When these people haven't eaten in a day or two, they're going to be fucking losing their damn minds. Because they've never, they've never really gone through that. Because the society makes everything nice and convenient, man. You get something instantaneous, instant pleasure, man. That's what the society's all about, instantaneous pleasure, man. They never had to go a day without eating or drinking water, or 2 days. Okay, so they're going to be bugging the fuck out. But if brothers have been fasting, even if you haven't been fasting a lot, just a little bit of practice to get your body in tune with it, man. Because when you fast consistently, when you have some kind of consistency in fasting, man, your body gets used to being hungry. Okay, and that hunger doesn't fuck with your head like it normally does. Like these people in the world, they can't go a couple hours without putting something in their fucking mouth, man. But the Most High is going to protect us from that. I'm ranting a little bit, but I want to get this last scripture. This lesson wasn't supposed to be too long. Watch this video. The brother makes points, man. The signs are all around us that we're in the last days. Isaiah 65:13. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, my servant shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Okay? Why? Because we've earned the protection of the Lord, man. Because we're willing. We're of that number. We're of the elect, man. He's going to keep us alive for that deliverance. Alright, he's going to show his power during this time when everybody's hungry. People are out there starving, killing each other. Alright? Pining away. Which is a terrible way to die, okay? You don't want to pine away. It's in the book of Lamentations, the 4th chapter, I believe. But ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servants shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Okay? And you people that act like this truth is a joke. I just saw that the brother Zion had posted a video on the channel. These people think it's a game. This guy wrote OMG, World War III. Okay? These people think it's a game, man. Just like they think it's a game now. They act like everything's going to continue on, man. The way it's been. Alright? As in the days of Noah. So shall it be in the days of the Son of Man. They were eating and drinking. They think that everything's just going to continue on the way it is, man. They don't see the coming calamities. Some of them see it, but they just refuse to do anything about it. But you really can't do anything about it except be protected by the Heavenly Father. But getting into this, man, you people think it's a game, man. It ain't gonna be no fucking game when we're eating and drinking and your fucking tongue is stuck to the roof of your mouth. Alright? And your fucking ribs are showing through your fucking rib cage, man. It's not gonna be a fucking game then. Okay? And to Mr. Mike Wood here, it's not gonna be a game when you're fucking, well, I'm gonna guess that you're an Edomite, okay? Well, hey, it doesn't even matter if you're an Edomite, okay? It's not gonna be a fucking game when your children get drafted, man. When your sons get, and daughters get drafted to go fight in this World War III. It's not gonna be no fucking game. Or you yourself. It's not gonna be no fucking game. okay? It's like it ain't gonna be no game when you see dead bodies all over the streets and people are resorting to cannibalism, but the cannibals can't even get a full meal because all the bodies that they're eating are already pined away in skin and bone, man. Starving to death is a slow, painful process, man. The Most High is a terrible, terrible power. He's a terrible, terrible power, man. With that, till next time, Shalom.
Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, a great millstone who teach the truth and sincerity, and a shout out to Yakim that's out there on four quarters of the earth proclaiming this truth. Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakadash, Bracha Tum. So, this video is a little bit older now. In the essence, I believe it came out around June 10th or so. But nonetheless, though, the message is out there, man, that the famine is right around the corner, because you see how close World War III is right around the corner. You know, that thing is amping up, and it's speedily happening. I mean, you go back to the history of Vietnam, look at how many times that they roll the footage over and over again, the Gulf of Tonkin, and how soon was the military deploying troops into the region. Wasn't very long after that, just like what you're seeing now, 1,000 more troops now being sent there. You know, so it's happening. So one of the wars that they don't like talking about, they don't like showing much footage, but of course Press TV ain't your normal channel. You know, this is alternative news, which they are on a rampage trying to get rid of it. So let's talk about one of them places they don't really like covering. And this just happens to coincide with famine. I mean, this is happening in the world. Yemen's a part of the world. And you don't think that the same terrorists that are doing this won't do the same? Because remember, Amalek controls that region. They control the Saudis, they control the Turks, they control, you know, what they can of Lebanon. Well, they don't control Lebanon, but they control Jordan. They control all kinds of things. They are bringing this famine. Same bastards. And you know what they've done to the crops over here in Babylon the Great. You know, but these are the same terrorists. And you don't think for 1 second, look, I had prophesied out there for quite a while here in Reading that eventually all of America would start looking like Aleppo. Well, you just go a few miles over to fucking Keswick, it looks just like Aleppo. That famine that they're causing around the world is coming over here too. But this is what their wars do. And guess what? America's fingerprints are all over it. You think these same gutter rats won't do the same to you? You are sorely mistaken. But, you know what? You'll probably go and fight for them bastards. Go fight for the Greater Israel Project. You deserve to die anyways. And more rumor of war, as you know, an EMP, aka cyber attack, that was used most recently, happened in this neck of the woods. They tested it on South America region, which is still the Northern Kingdom.
We have word today that power has been returned to almost 90% of Argentina that had suffered this massive blackout on Sunday. And it raises questions about the vulnerability of the South American grid. And if you don't remember, back in 2009, a similar massive outage hit Brazil. And in this instance, they're saying that the blackouts had crippled all types of things. It cut off water supplies. It crippled the phone, internet communications. And there was long lines for a few services that were available all over the place. And they're suspecting that this was potentially a cyber attack. Now, we speculated that this was a possibility, but to hear them come out and actually say this so quickly It's kind of alarming because a lot of people want to say, oh, it could have been that. It had to be just a failure. Something had to collapse or a cable cut accidentally. Accident. Now they're saying that they don't believe that that's so. So who is targeting Argentina and other countries? Who has the capability? Well, a handful of countries do. Let's not forget that Marco Rubio was tweeting about the power going out in Venezuela within minutes of it happening, showing that they knew before anyone. Also, they cut the power in Sudan right before they overthrew the government that was in there. And as I said, Brazil had witnessed a lights-out type of situation, and now parts of Uruguay, Argentina, parts of Chile were all affected by this. So I want to make mention that they're actually saying they believe this could be tied to an attack or a cyber attack, which means it could happen again. Dry run, test run. Interesting details. Like I said, I'm going to leave a link. Make sure to follow me on Twitter for more.
And that's just it, though, is, of course, you know who's doing it. I mean, who wants to control that region? Who's been controlling that region? And who is trying to take a proverb against Esau, the northern kingdom, because they're sick of Esau running that area, you know. Back during the days, not so long ago, they said that they couldn't govern themselves. But they want to take it back. They're taking a proverb against Esau. And that, of course, more than anything else, is what's leading to this testing ground. And, of course, they're going to deny, and then they're going to blame China, or they're going to blame Russia. But what does Russia or China have to gain out of doing this? Continuing on with the rumor war, as you know that this is going to lead to the third woe finally. But let's just see what's happening ever since the whore, Babylon the Great, cut the JCPOA deal.
The countdown is on for Iran, threatening to bail out of the 2015 nuclear deal in just 10 days, while continuing to increase its enrichment of uranium, raising the specter of an already tense situation in the Middle East erupting into something more dangerous or even violent. RT correspondent John Huddy is live with more on this story and the latest developments. John, what are Iranian officials exactly saying?
Yeah, well, Sarah, today the spokesman for Iran's Atomic Energy Agency said that Iran would increase its enriched uranium stockpile to exceed the limits that were set by that 2015 nuclear deal, what's called the JCPOA, upping the ante really in the showdown now between the U.S. and Iran, along with, of course, U.S. allies against Iran. Under the terms of the JCPOA, Iran agreed to reduce its nuclear capabilities, limiting, among other things, the number of uranium-enriching centrifuges, and also restricting its efforts to enrich uranium to no more than 3.67%. Well, now Iran says it's going to kick up that amount to 20% of enriched uranium, up to 20%, which many fear is really just a step away from nuclear weapons grade 90% enriched uranium. So this latest development with Iran is certainly adding to the ongoing tension and drama from last week when, of course, those two tankers were attacked in the Gulf of Oman near the very important Strait of Hormuz. U.S. officials, including President Trump and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, have blamed Iran for the attack, saying that video released by U.S. Central Command last week shows an Iranian vessel removing what they say was an unexploded mine from one of those tankers. Well, yesterday, Secretary Pompeo repeated those accusations against Iran, while also, he said, not ruling out possible military action against the country.
We are confident that we can take a set of actions that can restore deterrence, which is our mission set.
You say a full range of options. Does that include a military response?
Of course, the president will consider everything we need to do to make sure, right? But what the president said, we don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. The previous administration put them on a pathway that virtually guaranteed that they could get there. So we withdrew from the ridiculous JCPOA and are moving ourselves towards a set of policies which will convince Iran to behave simply like a normal nation.
And those policies, of course, include ongoing sanctions. Well, today, Iran's top military commander said that Iran would continue to protect the Strait of Hormuz, adding that, quote, as long as the Islamic Republic's oil is exported, the oil of others will be securely exported too. But, at this point, that doesn't exactly quell these ongoing concerns about the potential, Sarah, for a larger and broader escalation of problems and possibly even violence.
Right. And John, how are other countries reacting to Iran's announcement today, especially U.S. allies like Saudi Arabia and Israel?
Yeah, so both Saudi Arabia and Israel are against any nuclear efforts by Iran. We know that already, be it for energy or weapons, and are calling for a tough response to the country, agreeing with U.S. officials' assessment, pointing blame at Iran for last week's attacks, though, I should say not everyone in the international community is really convinced of that, including Japan. Remember, the CEO of the company, one of the owners of that tanker, contradicted U.S. official statements about the cause. Having said that, Saudi Arabia's energy minister has called for a, quote, rapid and decisive response to the threat of energy supplies in the Middle East region and flowing, of course, in and out of the Persian Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz. The UAE has also echoed those calls to action. Israel, meanwhile, is sticking with really the red line approach about preventing any Iran nuclear capabilities, with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying today that while the country, he says, isn't surprised by Iran's announcement about enriching uranium, quote, should Iran make good on its current threats and violate the nuclear agreement, the international community will need to immediately impose the snapback sanctions on Iran. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has meanwhile called for an independent investigation into who was responsible for last week's attacks, while Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov urged for a, quote, and these are his words, sober appraisal of the situation while waiting for more convincing evidence to appear before making what he called baseless accusations. So again, the accusations continue to go back and forth between the U.S. and Iran.
There are a lot of moving parts here, and hopefully it doesn't result in military escalation, but there are still a lot of countries part of that deal, so we'll see how we move forward with this. John Huddy, thank you so much for that report.
And it will escalate. That's what they plan to do. This is the third woe that cometh quickly. As said before. Meanwhile, back in Syria, more in the Idlib province, and this ain't even a rumor war, this is an actual war. Like a ceasefire, doesn't it? You see, just knowing that U.S. brings nothing but terrorists, I just don't see why anybody would want to fight for it. But then again, you know as well as I do, people are dumb enough to fight for it. But wait, this is the Edomites. This is the heart of an Edomite. They're a murderer. They were a murderer from the beginning, so why wouldn't they think twice about it? But you see, 2/3 of our people are just like Esau. We'll fight for that bullshit because they love their slave masters. Last American Vagabond on the idea of this whole smoking gun video and the fact that the smoking gun video of their bullshit alleged Iran attacked a tanker thing, Gulf of Tonkin, Sea of Oman incident.
I'm focusing almost entirely today on what's going on with Iran and the potential false flag that we're looking at. There's a lot of information going on, and I chose this today specifically because I'm constantly asking, as you might have noticed, for somebody somewhere to show me some evidence, show me something that we can talk about, and so they did. They must be watching my show. So now we're going to talk about it today, and I'm going to show you why it's not what they're putting forward, at least in my opinion, and please, as always, come to your own. There's plenty going on around this story. I mean, it's unbelievable almost. Humorously, I would say, inconclusive U.S. evidence, smoking gun, they're claiming, of Iranian involvement. It's great. This, you know, in today's day and age, with the sophistication levels, with the things we have with night vision, we get presented with this really grainy, low-quality, black and white footage that they want us to take at face value. They'll tell us what it is, like the satellite images I often point out.
Or
They
like
say,
the
this
white
is what
helmets.
this shows you, even though people kind of like go, what? I don't really see what that's showing you. But this video does show a boat come up to the other boat and do something, but it's questionable what's actually taking place. And then even more questionable that is in fact Iran. That is what we're taking at face value from the United States. We had owners of the tankers that were involved in this now openly saying that they don't believe the U.S. narrative. Saying, in fact, not even that, contradicting the narrative and saying, no, this wasn't what they're saying it is. Here's why. We'll get into that. And now contradicting U.S. claims even. We touched on this yesterday. But, you know, first Iran was never there at all, which Iran claims they rescued people. They said, no, they said, quote, patently false that Iran was even there, right? Now today, they're saying, oh, well, they were there, but it's only because they removed evidence. And the U.S. rescued the survivors, they claim, except the satellite maritime imagery will show you, tells quite a different story. The U.S. didn't seem to be there at all, at least in regard to the rescue around the area. We have some mainstream media now claiming that the Iran ship removed the mine in the image that you're being shown before the explosions took place. And then we have some saying that it took place after, which is what the U.S. is actually saying, either showing continual mainstream media incompetence, ineptitude, or that they just got the narrative talking points wrong from their government masters. And after all of that, and more that I will cover around this event, in contrast, I'll end today with a couple more stories, some about crimes that are being openly committed by U.S. allies and being overtly ignored, which is always an important point to make. In this case, yes, I'll be talking about Israel and some crimes that they're committing openly, but it applies to plenty of U.S. allies doing the very same things. And it's important that we recognize that overt contrast. But let's get into this story, because this is a very, very big story that's right now being sold by the entirety of mainstream media, as always, seemingly haven't learned their lesson about Iraq, or rather they did learn the lesson, and that is that they're always supposed to do what the government tells them. But that this is that they're continuing to push this forward as, oh, well, here we go. End of story. Sold. It's game over. This is the truth. But that's not what we're looking at here. And I hope even those that may watch this show with the intention to troll and distract people, keep an open mind and look at the information we're presenting and ask yourself whether there are more possibilities than what the U.S. is presenting as absolute certainty, which is something we're seeing everywhere. This coming from Zero Hedge, entitled, U.S. releases smoking gun video of Iran's Navy handling mine on tanker hull. And that's, you can see right there in the picture. I mean, that's some really low-quality footage, which I argue, what's even capable of taking something like that in our sophisticated military operation that we spend $1 trillion a year on? Right? But here's what we get. Really, really low quality video. I wonder why that may be. Now, Iran has clearly slammed what its mission to the United Nations said are, quote, unfounded and reckless claims put forth yesterday and into today by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, accusing Iran of conducting the, quote, blatant attacks on 2 international oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman on Thursday. As I said, that's what happened. Mike Pompeo wasn't saying, we think this is what happened. He was outright accusing Iran, saying that this is what happened based on this that's very clearly inconclusive. And this is what they said it was based on, mind you. And now they've shown us. And, you know, we can maybe guess and assume there might be something more that they have, but at this point, this is what we're shown, and this is what they say they have, and it's not conclusive. But up until this point, they have been screaming about how just wait until you see it, because it'll convince you. Well, here we
And that's just it, though, is they are just doing the same thing they've been doing in Syria, white helmets type operations. Well, this is just coming from the U.S. And with all the fucking shit that has been blown open and all that, you would think for 1 second that people wouldn't believe this shit. But do you still have those people that are fucking brain dead? They have no fucking brains whatsoever, and they believe everything the mainstream is telling them, even though all their so-called smoking gun evidence, like the white helmets and all that, and yet the media, especially here on the internet, has exposed it as bullshit. You know, pretty much, though, that they would have no credibility. But not to the fucking brain dead, which is why they're putting lithium in the water. That's why they're giving you GMOs. That's why they're putting, you know, antidepressants and all that to keep you docile to the point that you can't fucking think for yourself because you are under the influence of their narcotics, which is in just about everything. Well, and the sins of Sodom and Egypt right here exposed. This is not a beta test. No, this is actually what's going on, you know, what they were doing before Sodom was destroyed.
Hey, Shalom, Shalom. First, I'd like to give all praises unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Baharakah, Kadash, and double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and honor to you brothers out there in the highways and the byways teaching this word in all sincerity and in truth. And, you know, I just wanted to touch on this YouTube trending thing. You know, I don't really use it, but sometimes I come across what's trending. And, you know, a lot of what trends in this man's society is all LGBT stuff, man. Like, a lot of these top YouTubers are all like, you know, transgender or these effeminate dudes, makeup artists and all this madness. You know, which just shows you the vibration that this world is under. Alright, the vibration of abomination, of wickedness, of disobedience. Alright, because people don't watch these things to condemn them. They watch to revel and to support and to promote. Alright, now you look at the top trending. You got this video here which has 3.9 million views already in 19 hours. And it's the Try Guys, and it's called I'm Gay. And it's just this fairy dancing around, right? You're gonna go to the comment boards, you're gonna see enough glorification there. And then you had this guy here, Daniel Howell, 7.3 million views in 2 days. Basically, I'm gay. And you go into the comment boards, these people, they support this stuff. Okay? These people support this, which guess what, man? If you support wickedness, you promote wickedness, you're in league with wickedness, you're going to be judged accordingly, right? And I say that just to say this, man. Job 19 and 29, it says, be afraid of the sword, for wrath bringeth the punishments of the sword, that ye may know there is a judgment. And that's why World War III is in the works. You know, that's why World War III is in the works, because the Lord is going to use this great war to come to bring great wrath and destruction upon the majority of peoples in this earth, man. Misery and pain and everything that comes with war, disease, hunger, famine, you know, mournings, alright, anguish. All these things are going to come upon the earth, and you know what, man, a lot of you people are going to ask the question, why me? A lot of you people that were on the comment boards supporting LGBT and supporting abortion and all idolatry and all everything which is against the righteous will of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, wherefore he subscribed wrath unto you. You the same people that's in that day gonna cry aloud and say, why me? Well, the reason it's going to be you is because you chose the things which were not right. You chose the things which brought forth wrath and judgment. And that's the bottom line. Alright? So all you people jumping on YouTube that are actually watching these videos and supporting these guys, you know what's coming. Shalom.
And which leads me to something else, though. There's a show that's on Showtime as well as on many other channels, and it's pretty much free. You can get it on the Roku channel. You can get it almost anywhere, called Shameless. Well, that word in itself. I mean, there's a brother from GMS Great Waters who actually pulled up the word shameless to be blatant, and, there's this whole, in season 8 of that, as well as some of season 9, their homosexual brother, which has been throughout the whole thing, but, he goes to the point of being gay Jesus. And this just proves my point before. The name Jesus Christ does represent homosexuality, because what is the image? The Caesar Borgia image. And who is Caesar Borgia? The Rothschilds, the Redchilds. And what does it promote? Homosexuality. Caesar Borgia was a homosexual. So in actuality, gay Jesus is what it is. And that's why, Christianity cannot defend itself, especially when you got the LGBTQ that are pretty much in this so-called Christian church. A lot of the denominations, and it's to the point, though, that, they don't even condemn homosexuality anymore. I'll show you some footage to show you what I'm talking about. I'll get some images up here and talk about it. I'm not going to play video footage because I don't want to be given any copyright strikes for using copyrighted material. And these are some of those images. Of course, you got this one that's blatant because that's what shameless means. And so God loves fags. That's from the show. And you got their father, Frank, and, he created an entire shirt, which, if this ain't blatant, I don't know what is. But you see, though, it's true. Christianity promotes homosexuality. Okay, it won't show it. Never mind. But there's more. There's the Church of Gay Jesus, and, this is very well promoted. Because shameless means to be bold. Okay, here we go. Here's one. As you can see there. And this is what Christianity is. Christianity is LGBTQ. Now, I know that this is a TV series and all that. But nonetheless, though, well, what do you think witchcraft is? It's media. It's mediocrities. And what better way than using the Christian church? Because remember, God loves everybody. Jesus loves you. Just come to Jesus. You can do anything, just believe in Jesus. And that's just it. All for the love of Jesus. You see how that puts up a different vibration entirely? There's all kinds of images of that. Oh, look at this. Even more mockery, because we already know who Caesar Borgia is. But you see that? And this is it, though. The pride, of Sodom and Egypt. That's why this place is called Sodom and Egypt. So, anyhow, yeah, man, that's why World War III is right around the corner, especially this LGBTQ month, which you got a couple more weeks of it. They're going to be blatant. They're going to be shameless. And 2/3 of our people make up the majority of homosexuals. No kidding. Yeah. Because you know what goes on in them prisons, and you know that they are very blatant and bold. Like that, I hate to use the name, but that Israelite group that decided to go set up camp at a gay pride parade. Decided that, I'll just set up camp there. But you saw that the majority of those were Israelites partaking in LGBTQ that are actual direct homosexuals. And so you know as well as I do that what's the Most High going to do? He's going to send the sword after these 2/3. Well, here's the funny thing, though, is that just like the L.A. riots, that happened after they presumed those fucking pigs innocent, same thing here, man. Pretty much they find themselves not guilty.
It has been 4 years since the crisis in Flint, Michigan with their water took place. And now, after all this time, the prosecutors in the case who were looking for criminal activity on behalf of the government and other factors such as private companies, etc., have announced that they are dropping all charges. Now, the reason they are doing so is they note interference by the lawyers for the potential defendants. The investigative approach and legal theories embraced by the former Office of Special Counsel that oversaw the investigation, according to a press release issued by the Michigan Department Attorney General, the OSC was appointed by the former Attorney General Bill Schutt. The OSC entered into agreements that gave private law firms that were representing the accused a role in deciding what information would be turned over to law enforcement, according to the release. Now, the prosecutors did note in a press release that the voluntary dismissal is not a determination of any of the defendant's criminal responsibility. Prosecutors are not precluded from filing charges against defendants in the future. Now, what this essentially means is there was a prosecution process. There was the evidence that was collected. Now, the prosecutors or the people involved were entering into negotiations with the people they were going to charge or potentially charge in deciding what evidence can be shown and what evidence can't. I mean, that would be really great if I was charged with something and I could negotiate over what evidence was used against me. That'd be really awesome. That's kind of the thing that only someone with power and money with really great connections can possibly work out. I mean, what's clear to me, and clear to a lot of people as well, is a direct interference in the justice system by the wealthy elite, who very probably are guilty in this situation. I mean, you don't negotiate with what evidence can be used against you unless you're, well, there's evidence against you that you did something wrong. I mean, when this was announced to the public, many of the residents were worried that guilty people who were guilty in the situation, would walk free. And for quite a while, it seemed like that was going to be the case. So initially when this was announced, it seemed like everybody had just gotten off scot-free. But they said there probably will be charges brought against them in the future. But this does show how perverse the American legal system is, or the justice system is, and that people with power and money can influence decisions and influence trials. Of course, this is nothing new. I mean, we already know that. But it's important to point this out when it happens so that people fully understand the gravity of the corruption. I mean, is that really corruption if that's the very nature of the thing itself? Is this a crooked legal system? Or is this what the legal system actually is? And I think it's important to differentiate between the two, because if you believe that this is some kind of aberrant behavior, this is just some kind of corruption that got into the system, then you get the feeling that you can reform it, or you get the idea that you can do it. But if you understand that this is the very nature of the system itself, then you get the idea or the realization that you have to get rid of the system itself and replace it with a new one. There's a big difference between believing in reform and believing in revolution. That's a very important concept that a lot of the left in the United States in particular has certainly forgotten. And of course, there's always the greatness of understanding that this all happens in the context of capitalism. The people who own capital wield power inside that same system, but that really should be obvious at this point. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then...
And that's just it, The Most High has given the power unto Esau to punish you wicked, which is the entire world. He has it set up. The ultimate chess player is Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. And, you're going to be caught up in the snares of World War III, because that's happening around the corner. More from The Last American Vagabond. This war that's about to happen there, another nickname is Iraq 2.0.
Willing to question the claims of people in power? Well, don't expect that from their allies. It's coming from RT. Who needs proof? Britain believes U.S. claims on Iran because they're our closest ally. Well, that's nice and fuzzy. We'll believe them because they're our friend. Who needs evidence? If this doesn't sum up for you what these people are all about, I don't know what to show you. Excuse me. Now, the article begins. Ask covering diplomatic doublespeak was in evidence when the UK's foreign secretary was asked whether he shared the U.S. view that Iran was behind an attack on 2 oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman. Now, on BBC's Today program on Friday, Jeremy Hunt was asked, quote, "You back the U.S.'s assessment that Iran is behind the attack. Do you have independent evidence of that?" Right? I'm actually shocked that's a question coming from BBC. They rarely ask a question that makes sense. That doesn't just give them the opportunity to bolster their narrative. But he point blank said, "You back the U.S. assessment that Iran was behind the attack, period. So do you have evidence of that, right?" And this is what he said. Jeremy Hunt replied saying, "We are going to make our own independent assessment. We have our processes to do that." So right off the bat, no, we haven't. So we're blindly taking their word. And then he says, "We have no reason not to believe the U.S. assessment." No reason, how about Iraq? How about Libya? How about Afghanistan? How about Syria? How about all the times they've lied to get into war? But yeah, we don't talk about that. And he says, we have no reason to not believe the American assessment, and our instinct is to believe it because they're our closest ally. Well, isn't that nice? But see, it makes sense because they've worked hand in hand on all of these lies in the past. Very clearly, the UK is walking hand in hand with these overt lies from past wars. Or even just Syria specifically. UK is acutely involved with what happened with the Duma event, with the lies about basically every false flag in Syria. That's why they say, oh, of course, we have no reason not to believe them, because we know they're lying and we're doing it with them. Right, so the British government's stance on this is to believe Washington not because there's any definitive proof, right, but because they're our closest ally. And as the article puts it, well, that's the kind of loyalty money can buy. And now for the next part, which I know you probably expected, which we usually do with these larger events, which is the absurdity of the media coverage around it. This coming from Common Dreams. It's very frustrating, and not frustrating, but it should be revealing to you to see what the mainstream media really are. That they're willing to, what it seems, to make the same mistake again and blindly take the claims of the government as they did into Iraq. Right? Which we all acknowledge is a horrible mistake. That we were lied to, that the media were lied to, or knew they were being lied to and didn't care. So what we're looking at now is either their incompetence, which is not surprising, or that they know, and they've always known that they're being lied to, or rather they're just regurgitating the narrative because that's what their job is. And here we are again. Yet again. One more time. Let's do it again, mainstream media. Let's help the government force this country into another war that we don't need. Because that's what the mainstream's job really is today. Now, if there were any lingering hopes here that the mainstream media has actually learned from its efforts in the past in perpetuating the lies of government wars, in particular the U.S.-led war in 2003, the illegal invasion of Iraq. And if you have any hope at all that they learned from that mistake and would never actually again try to help start a Middle East war, on the basis of false or flimsy evidence, or simply the claims of the very U.S. officials the mainstream media pretends it's their job to hold accountable. The headlines that blared across the front pages of major U.S. news websites yesterday and today clearly dashed any hopes of any possible lessons learned by these mainstream media journalists. Grudgingly, I use that word for these people. Again, Iran has denied any involvement in the attacks. And as we pointed out, the owner of the courageous ship contradicted the Trump administration's account during his press conference, outright said that's not what happened. He says, our crew said the ship was attacked by flying objects. I do not think there was a time bomb or an object attached to the side of the ship. Period, he said. Again, directly calling into question the U.S. video. Now, just taking a random sample of screenshots after the news came out on Thursday, major outlets in the mainstream media as the article put it, largely did the Pentagon's dirty work by posting uncritical headlines that took the claims at face value, which is what they always do.
Yep, and you know as well as I do that that's what started the Vietnam War, and that's what's going to start the third woe that cometh quickly. This is right around the corner, so you're either going to repent, you're going to get right, you are part of the elect, or you're going to be caught up in Mystery Babylon, Babylon the Great, when it gets destroyed for everything, and you are consumed with it, aka the lake of fire. So, that leads me to here, and, this is about the time that we're in, the elect of us is going to get delivered, but you 2/3 are going to be caught up in this. Brings me to Revelation chapter 12, starting in verse 9, and the great dragon was cast out. That old serpent called the devil and Satan. And what's that talking about? That's talking about Esau, Edom, pretty much their great dragon, which is their power structure, which deceiveth the whole world, via Christianity, the philosophies, pretty much the wrath of her fornication, if you will, and deceived the entire world. But this is talking about Edom as a whole. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Now, a lot of people like to take this verse and say that, oh yeah, Satan was cast out of heaven. We're not dealing with that bullshit. We know that this is a current war happening now. And that, there's no, devil with horns, although that even in itself, but you know what I'm talking about, those fake images, of Beelzebub, and, like their version of Satan. No, this is talking about Satan as Esau, Edom. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our power, and the power of his Hamashiach, and the accuser of our brethren is cast down, meaning that he's taken out of power. This is when Esau, Edom goes down, and it's just about ready to happen, which accused them before our power day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, that is, by us going out in the streets and proclaiming this truth, and not being afraid to do so. And they loved not their lives unto the death. And that's just it, though, man. We hate this fucking place. We want nothing to fucking do with America. Yeah, we may live in it, but we want nothing to do with it. We definitely don't want any part of this judgment. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and you that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth. It's talking about you 2/3. And of the sea. For the devil, which is known as Esau, Edom, and the heads of it, Amalek, is come down unto you, having great wrath, better known as the sword, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. They know that their time is just about up. So these Rothschilds are going to come in having great power, which is what's happening now. That's why World War III is amping up, because it is Amalek that wants the war with Persia, which is really the third woe that cometh quickly. And the dragon that saw him, he was cast unto the earth. He persecuted the woman, that is, the Israelites, us, especially those of us in the truth, who brought forth the man-child, which is really talking about Yahushua. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she may fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and half a time from the face of the serpent. That's when we went into hiding. We fled into the mountains of basically Arpad and Hamath, area, which is North Africa and the Middle East. We fled into the mountains, escaping the destruction of Jerusalem, and a lot of us went up north as well into the EU areas where the dragon actually is. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away by the flood. That's talking about, what happened then. And then, you get to the final wrap of it, what is this flood, that's about to come? That is talking about World War III. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. Again, only those that have this testimony, that proclaim this truth, and hold on to it, and have the faith to endure, are going to make it. And the dragon was wroth with the woman. It's talking about Yashala, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. That's talking about us. That's talking about the elect, because we are that remnant, which keep the commandments of Yahweh and the testimony of Yahweh Shai Hamashiach. So again, a flood is coming, and yeah, we're going to feel it. Of course we're going to feel it. I had that dream a couple months ago that it felt like I was being consumed by this. Well, that's what this is saying, is it not? That pretty much it seemed like I was judged too. It's like, wow, man. And I was feeling it. It's like, wow, did I do enough? Am I judged too among the wicked? It's going to seem that way. So I hope all this has been edifying. Like everything else, man, don't be caught in Babylon and her sins. Don't be caught in Esau, Edom, man. Love not your lives, but hate this fucking place and want to get out of here and do everything you possibly can to ensure that. But then I want to say, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rukal Kadash, Wa Abba Babal.